Let's move on and let's now turn to the big focus story. 2 women software professionals were killed when they were hit by a speeding car while crossing the road at Chennai's IT corridor last night on the OMR road. S. Lavanya and R. Lakshmi, both just 23-year-old, worked as analysts at HCL State Street Service. They were on their way back home from work at around 11:30 p.m. last evening when a luxury vehicle rammed them, bumped them off, and instantly killed one of them. Lakshmi died on the spot while Lavanya was admitted to the Rajiv Gandhi Hospital where she died this morning. Even as the women were inflicted with severe head injuries, the driver, in fact, after having committed this accident, tried to escape. Passers-by came to the rescue, alerted an ambulance. They also caught hold of the driver who, like I said, was trying to escape. He is now under custody. The police were trying to find out if he was under the influence of the alcohol, but as of now, prima facie, we just know that this is a case of overspeeding, rash and negligent driving. The police has managed to seize the car. So basically the information that we are getting now is that a case has been booked under sections of rash and negligent driving under the Indian Penal Code. So what we are getting information is that the driver has been taken into custody, but let me go across to Dharani to get more details. Yes, Dharani, over to you. Has police managed to nab the culprits? And tell us more about how this accident really happened. Which part of Chennai is this?
Well, the Pallikaranai, traffic police, they've registered a case initially in relation to this incident, and they've also arrested a person named Motish Kumar who was, supposedly driving the car. So that person is right now under police custody, and investigations are currently going on, with him. And the police have also managed to seize the car, which was, speeding and hit the 2 women. So these 2 women we are talking about, they're young women. Both of them are 23 years old, and both of them, Sri Lakshmi and Lavanya, they were working in an IT firm in OMR road of Chennai. So OMR is basically the old Mahabalipuram road, busy and important roads, one of the important roads in Chennai. So a lot of IT firms are situated there, and these 2 girls are working were working in one of the IT firms there. So when post work, these 2 women, they were walking from their office to their house, which was which is nearby. So when they were walking by the road, a speeding car had hit him, and because of that, as you told, one person, that is Sri Lakshmi, died unfortunately on the spot itself. So Lavanya was rushed to Rajiv Gandhi Government Hospital in Chennai central area, but unfortunately she also succumbed to the injuries. So a very tragic incident. 2 young girls, all 23 years old, with lots of hopes and dreams. They're all shattered to pieces in a fraction of a second by this speeding car. So right now the police are investigating this Motish Kumar, the person who's been arrested, and they're also trying to ascertain if he was under the influence of alcohol when he was driving. And from our sources we're also learning that this person Motish Kumar is kind of having a political influence, and that is what we were hearing from the locals and the sources inside the police department. They are telling that he's politically a sound person, and he has a lot of contacts in the political arena here. So we'll have to see how the investigation is going to go. Of course, like, we are going to expect a fair and a clear investigation, and the families of these 2 girls are definitely awaiting justice. They demand justice. In fact, both of these women, they are not from Tamil Nadu. Basically one woman is from Kerala and the other is from Andhra Pradesh. So they both of them, they've come to Chennai to work when they're 23 in an IT firm. So lots of dreams and hopes are here getting shattered. A very unfortunate incident.
But the families are going through Chennai. At this point of time, 2 families would be completely shattered. These are young girls. They were promising young women of this country, IT professionals who were returning home after a hard day's work. And this is what happens. Thanks, Dharani, for joining us. Well, this is not a random accident or incident, is what we have realized when we tried to delve a little deeper. What we saw is there seems to be a pattern. And why do we say this? Let's put out the information that we have on our screens on how Tamil Nadu as a state, in fact, has a dubious road safety record. Look at those figures. 55,682 road accidents, highest in India. 15,384 deaths, which is second highest in the country. 104 accidents hotspots have been identified in Chennai alone. 93% of the accidents are because of overspeeding and rash driving, which is why I said there seems to be a pattern. This is happening over and over again. And in the larger picture, India has 2% of the vehicles globally, but accounts for 11% of road fatalities. And that should say something about how poor we are in our road safety standards. Tamil Nadu state and national highways are the most unsafe, and this is as per government records of 2021, which is why we are saying that this is a rather dubious road safety record, and also putting out those figures for you as well, that this is not the first time an incident of this nature has happened in Chennai. Two techies aged 23 killed by speeding car. That has just happened in the same fatal IT corridor. There are more incidents. As you can see there, 2nd of July 2022, 45-year-old man died on the spot after being hit by a speeding Audi. Let's move to the next incident. 13th of June 2022, 60-year-old former police officer killed after her scooty was hit by a speeding bikers. So these are instances that have happened this year. April 4th, 2022, 40-year-old pedestrian died on the spot after being hit by a two-wheeler in the same Chennai IT corridor. So clearly there is a problem here staring at us on our face, which is not being addressed. What is important, however, is to understand that the priority given to road safety is rather poor in this country. Let me introduce, joining us here on the program, Pradip Sarkar, road safety expert, Dr. Sudhir Krishna, former Secretary, Ministry of Urban Development, and Mr. Madhvan Narayanan, senior journalist based out of Chennai, familiar with the city's topography. Let me welcome the three gentlemen joining us on the program. It's extremely sad. It's very, very tragic, Mr. Pradip Sarkar, that, you have young, promising women, working women who had bright futures being their lives snuffed out in this manner simply because we as a country have failed to address our road safety concerns.
You said very rightly, but I would like to respond
Yes.
that as our enforcement system is very poor, that is, and also overspeeding has been the phenomenon of today's culture. We have also seen that overspeeding caused a lot of accidents, and as per my record, around more than 56% in a national level, the victims is primarily because of the overspeeding. So I think that overspeeding, there is some problem with the road users' behavior. So there are a lot of things need to be addressed. Therefore, as a road safety expert, always we say that we need to look into the 5 E's: engineering, education, enforcement, emergency, and environment. So therefore, all the things go hand in hand. Then perhaps we'll be able to address the problem. So my foremost and most important things I will stress again and again, that without having a strong enforcement, we cannot really get rid of this kind of problems. I know practically the Europe, the Japan, England, there is any problem with the traffic violation, the penalty goes as high as around the 500 pounds in particular in UK. Even in Japan, the penalty is very high. And I can tell you that in case if you make any kind of, even if you do not wear a seat belt, that also cause you a problem with respect to your they will suspend your license, and you will be without driving for some time. And they have also 50 points records. 15 points when you consume 15 points because of traffic violation, you are not supposed to drive, and that means you are losing bread and butter. So until unless this kind of culture is brought in our road traffic safety education system, I think every day we'll hear this kind of accident. Therefore, we have been registering more than 156,000 fatality in a year. It's really very shameful and disappointing for all of us. This is my what you call views in the first instance.
Sudhir Krishna, as somebody who served in the government, do you think that there is a chronic issue here? Somewhere we are blind to the fact that, the twists and turns and the accident-prone areas that are repeatedly, because the reason, why I put out that information is simply to establish the fact that this is a stretch that is clearly accident-prone. So many instances have happened this year alone, which goes to show that this is a problem that is waiting to be addressed?
So,
Well, what you say is right. And there are guidelines for preparing mobility plan for city. And the Ministry of Urban Development has already issued several years ago city mobility plan preparation guidelines. And under the JNNURM, cities were required to prepare mobility plan, which includes the road and walkways also, drainage also, and the various infrastructure, street furniture and infrastructure. Unfortunately, that city mobility plan concept has not been pursued very seriously to the logical end. So that has led to city roads becoming kind of prone to accidents and prone to inconvenience and lack of safety also. So it is high time that we relook and revisit the concept of proper mobility plan for city, where every user of the road, and road should include, by in our thinking, the walkways also and the drainage also. Every user of the road should be given proper attention. It is not only that roads are for the automobiles, roads are also for the walkers, also for the cyclists. So that is one part. The second part is that the speeding of vehicle means there is something wrong in enforcement. People are they think that they can get away by violating the speed norms. Nowhere in the country the city roads would be allowed to be more than 50 or 60 kilometers. But here he was driving at much higher speed than
Yes,
that.
130 kilometers per hour as per the police officer who reported on about this. Yes.
The normal requirement in all developed countries, and we call ourselves developed country, but we should follow. You see, there are vehicles, police vehicles, which keep track, and there are systems now available which can track, and immediately the person is chased and
But if
stopped.
you heard my colleague say, here is a person who had political connections, and that is what happens. You have that level of arrogance that you get away with it, which he was saying, that there is no fear of the law. And I'm not sure if there is a law that can be enforced in this regard.
Yes, the law has to be enforced, and side by side, not only the driving license has to be reviewed and revoked. Also, the insurance premiums have to go up. The more you violate the law for small or big reasons, the insurance premium should be increased also. And now with the Vahan app, all the offences and the movements of such kind of activities are properly documented, and it is possible to to give a various kind of multiple responses to the violators. But see, one thing has happened. After that, we are saying that what should be done to the person culprit. But why not immediately apprehend the person? When he has to be apprehended, nobody will know he's a big or small man. But this system has to be improved, where those who are violating the traffic rules should be apprehended immediately and taken to task immediately. Afterward, their high connection or low connection will come to fore later. It should not be that they are allowed to commit the crime of this kind, and then we look for what to do, which is also should be done. But that is very critical. And of course, still at the same time, street crossings have to be marked, zebra crossing have to be there, proper crossing. I see in Delhi, there are in Delhi and NCR, it is very difficult to cross the road. I see the walkers, they do not know how to cross the road. They will make bridges, and that will be very difficult. You have to go half kilometer to reach there. So people want to immediately cross the road wherever they can. There are underpasses which are not properly lit and not maintained.
Yes.
So this also endangers the people. So both sides
That is because our lives are taken for granted, sir. Human life has got no value in this country. Our drainage system is in shambles. Our roads are unsafe. Our infrastructure is crumbling in most of the cities. Madhvan Narayanan, as a citizen voice, if you had to question, where do we fix accountability for all of this? You just heard Dr. Krishna say that we do not have a culture of creating pedestrian safe roads. Where are the footpaths? Where are the zebra crossings? We hardly see them.
I think, Afrida, let me define this as a cultural problem at a deeper level, because I know there's nothing I need to add to what you have said and what the two panelists have said, but it's important for us not to approach this as just as an administration problem or even a law and order problem. We see it as a socio-cultural problem in which I link this whole thing to what I call the culture of toxic masculinity and the habit of abuse of power. I just was waiting for the show and listening to the other panelists when I went to Google and said incidents involving VIP sons in India. And you had Hyderabad rape, 2 juvenile sons held, and then you had Jammu, VIP car with red beacon crushes minor boy to death. And then VIP's Chandigarh, VIP's son roams free after thrashing cops. So one is the abuse of power, which is part of political accountability, in which we need more of citizens' awareness so that things are more policed in a social sense and not just left to the cops, because the cops become part of the problem when there's no pressure. In fact, I've just been watching a film due for release today called Sia, which is about a rape in UP, in which the story is about power ultimately, and brute power, abuse of power. Let me also throw a couple of statistics at you. 5.28 lakh people have died of COVID-19 in India over the past 3 years, whereas last 1 year alone, there were 1.55 lakh people dying of road accidents in India, in spite of the fact that the economy was at a low and lockdowns were being enforced and all. And I link it all to toxic masculinity as a cultural problem, in which if you see movies, if you see advertisements, even of automobile advertisements, that need to be actually enforced and policed, because
which is why, Mr. Narayanan, look at the figures. We have 2% of the world's vehicles and 11% of the fatalities.
Exactly. So these things should be, first of all, our bureaucracy has a huge problem. We benchmark everything with Europe, which is very good and as an objective. But, we need to get anthropological and cultural in our perspective of things for us to get a better grip of the problem. Unfortunately, India, everybody learns to be engineer and doctor. Nobody studies sociology and anthropology, which are extremely important for public policy. In fact, I would argue that toxic masculinity, in which there are advertisements and movies glorifying strength, speed, and aggression. I ask any student of sociology or psychology or marketing to actually do a study on this. Study how much of advertisements glorify strength, speed, and culture among youth. अगर आप असली मर्द है तो ये करके दिखाओ.
That is one, but let's not absolve the authorities. While the citizens, I do understand. The cultural part, but let me tell you, when we were looking into accidents, just like you did, we also went into a bit of data, and what we found is all of these accidents could have been averted if, for instance, there were stricter laws, if the road was repaired, if the laws for overtaking was more stringent, more enforcement, if the road was repaired, there were accidents that could have been avoided if there were seat belts. Of course, that comes on the citizens, the onus on the citizens there. But most of these things, if black spots were identified, if there was a zebra crossing, as in this case, in the case of Cyrus Mistry, as we know now, that the entire stretch has been a black spot for years. And many people who regularly use that stretch have been talking about it. It has taken a big man to die for the authorities to realize that there is a problem there.
Let me come to the policy part of it or the enforcement part of it. Apart from the fact that police people have to be held accountable at various levels, and which there is no accountability, we should look at the fact that Western European highways, for instance, France, you have the gendarmes, motorcycle police, which are actually going up and down the highway to check overspeeding cases. We also have CCTV cameras, even in Delhi, in some places, which increasingly capture these accidents. But we need to frighten people to say that CCTV cameras are watching you. And drones should be increasingly used to police roads and highways, because if a drone, drones were used in Delhi to control riots at one point a few years ago in East Delhi. So new technologies of, whether it's of TV cameras, CCTV cameras, or drones, or motorcycle-borne policemen, can be collectively used to actually fix a certain accountability. But we should put a fright of law into these people, in which there are 3 levels at which can happen. One, which I do what I call evangelization through, for instance, DAVP advertisements or government advertisements can enforce this by evangelizing this. And that is not happening the way I see it. We've had very, very dull 3-line advertisements saying drive carefully. It doesn't mean a thing. We need to bring in more creative minds into this kind of evangelization. The second step, we need to have NGOs and voluntary agencies putting pressure on the government so that these accidents, the errant people are punished. And the third thing is use effectively the technologies possible, such as drones, CCTV cameras, and gendarmes.
Yes. All of that is there, Mr. Narayanan. You do have drone cameras nowadays. You do have CCTV cameras. You do challan people. But none of it is acting as a deterrent. Mr.
Exactly.
Pradip Sarkar,
So
what can create...
why...
Yes, I'll come back to you. Let me have the others as well. What can create a deterrence? I do understand that as citizens, we have a certain responsibility, but I have to say, those of us who have traveled abroad, we have seen it. How pedestrian safety has become, is a very much bigger concern for countries, advanced countries across the world, and much less of a priority here. For instance, if you do not have those zebra crossings here at all, jaywalking, I don't even know how many people will be familiar with that term, is not an issue here. Anybody can cross anywhere. In fact, here in this case, the two ladies were crossing this stretch, which anyway should never be allowed anywhere. It's not allowed in the advanced world. Mr. Sarkar.
You said very rightly that we need to develop the pedestrian-friendly infrastructures. That is, as Prime Minister Sudhir Krishna also pointed out. And also, I believe that wherever you have also identified the hotspot or black spot areas, you need to look into the not only improvement of road geometrics, you also need to look into the traffic calming measures. Traffic calming measures basically that will deterrent the speed of the vehicles. As a result of the decrease in speed, that there is a likelihood that the accident will be reduced. So, and we have been practicing this traffic calming measures and many parts of India as well as abroad. This is one thing. And another thing, can I continue?
Yes, please, quickly, sir.
Another point is that now we need to bring a culture of committing that zero fatalities. Now, the question is that the conventional methods as has been practiced by 5V and 5 pillars does not really ensure the zero fatality. Therefore, you need to bring the culture of application of intelligent transport systems, because that even when you are about to hit somebody, your vehicle will not be able to move further.
Okay, so in today's world, when technology has advanced to this extent, why haven't we not implemented it? Why is enough awareness not created? Dr. Sudhir Krishna, where do you see the problem, and what according to you could resolve or solve matters, at least for the policy makers of this country? What would you say?
I said before that now we must prepare, revisit and make city mobility plan for every city. Every city must have mobility plan, and mobility plan has to be catering to the requirement of that city based on the social and economic activities.
Right.
In some cities there are a lot of two-wheelers. In some cities there are a lot of walkers and so on. So everybody must be taken care of. I don't think we are giving attention to other than automobiles, and that too four-wheelers. Every design and every road activity is focused on how to provide facilities and services to the four-wheelers. And that is creating confusion. And secondly, a lot of people walk here. Unfortunately, our system is such, fortunately or unfortunately, the cities don't have any pockets of everything is everywhere. All activities are strewn everywhere, and therefore people have to walk from this end almost everywhere. So we should have more frequent, crossings, zebra crossings. Be at shorter intervals, not at the international, level of half kilometer or something. It has to be every 200 meters or so. Otherwise, people will have the tendency to cross over at here and as they are doing.
People jump over dividers, sir. We have seen it. All of us living in cities like Delhi and Mumbai, we see the people can go to any extent. The fact is, there must be enough enforcement of these laws. There must be fear of the law. I appreciate the three of you joining me today and sharing your perspectives on this very important story on road safety. We have lost two precious lives, two young women, all of 23 in Chennai. They were IT professionals. Think about those families. For no fault of theirs, they have lost a loved one on the Chennai road. We leave it at that for now. Thanks for watching.